Tonight, Mark's going to do a presentation on how to help weatherize your home for the cold weather months coming on. And afterwards, we'll be doing a question and answers. If you could put your questions in the chat room, then we can ask Mark the questions for you from the chat room. So that'd be a good spot for you to post your questions. And with that, we'll turn it over to Mark and let him start with his presentation.
Okay, thank you. So what I've got here today is it's all about the envelope. It's not the envelope that you mail. It's the envelope that you're encased in your home. And how do you seal that up to winterize your home the best you can and to use the least amount of energy and the maximum amount of comfort? So some of this is going to apply to different kinds of homes. We got people here that probably have new homes, people that have really old homes. That's why I was teasing you, Miles. And we've both had very old homes, and we know there's a lot of issues there. But I started out here with windows, and what can we do about windows? Well, first of all, I'm assuming that you have double pane windows. If you don't, if it's an older house, then there's some additional things we can look at. The very first thing is to just start looking at the integrity of the window and see how well it closes. So sometimes on older windows, the latches, like I'm pointing to here, don't work, or they don't catch the other half of the latch, and therefore the window doesn't seal. So that's a fairly simple thing to do to fix that. Usually it's dirt or something in the tracks of the window. And actually, if I go to the next slide, I show that would be something that you'd want to do. And what I'm doing here is lifting up the window enough to look at this bottom area down here. Is there any garbage in there? Okay. And if there is, if the window's been open at all, there probably is, even if there's a screen. And that needs to be cleaned out because otherwise that window won't go all the way down and those latches won't. So you can either tape or put a foam piece in here all the way around the window to seal it. Now, the only thing with this that I don't like is that windows an exit and possibly in an emergency. So if you're going to do this, I wouldn't do it to all your windows. Leave some as a safety in case you want to get into them. There are things called inside storms. I don't know, you may have heard of them. This is especially if you have single pane windows. I don't really think you need them with double pane windows. There are plastic ones you can get, and if you really want to go inexpensive, you can go get some visqueen and tape it up. So you can take this to any level that you want. But again, it does limit your access to the window, so you might want to make sure that you have something somewhere. And if you have a double pane window, the window really isn't your problem. I'm not a big fan of the triple pane windows. I don't think you get a whole lot more for a whole lot of extra money. Double panes work pretty well. They got a good number on them. But what doesn't work is, and where all the leaks come from, they don't come from the window, they come from the space around the window. So you put a window in this hole here, and there's going to be a gap on each side of it, and there's going to be some shims in there when they move it around and get it aligned just right. And there's no insulation. Okay? The only thing that's keeping the air out is the trim piece on the outside of the house. So on newer homes, that's going to be foamed in there. But if you don't have anything but a really new home, it's something that someday you might want to do. The problem is you do have to pull off all the trim to get to that. And then the last thing is, just new windows. But if you get new windows, make sure that they do that. Make sure they seal that area between the window and the structure of the house, because it's notorious for letting air in. So I got a thing here, window treatments follow the sun. So if you got a window and it's on the north side of the house, and you don't mind the darkness from it, close your curtain of the shade, because that's going to trap a lot of that cold air that would otherwise come in the house. And the opposite's true on the other side. The sun's pretty low in the winter. It's shooting straight in your window, and you want that curtain or that whatever it is up, because you want that sun to come in. And you'd be amazed on a winter day maybe you wouldn't be, maybe you've seen it, that, you know, it can really warm up an area even in the middle of winter. So and it's something we do fairly well, where we put the blinds down where it's cold and we have the blinds up where it's warm. So doors, the biggest thing with doors, and it's not as complicated as windows, is just the gasket. These gaskets are just standard, pretty much on every door. And, you know, open the door and take a look. Does the gasket go down? And also, or is it engaged all the way down? But also, at the bottom and the top, is there a little gap? Because sometimes they put these gaskets in and then they cut the piece and then they put it in there and they might stretch it a little bit. And then it goes back to its own shape and there's a little gap at the top or the bottom. So at the top, the cross gasket and the up and down gasket don't meet the bottom. It doesn't go all the way down. So make sure they do. And if they don't, it's easy to go get another piece, pull that out of the channel and put the new piece back in. And that'll make a big difference. You can also get a sweeper for the floor that goes on the, I don't think they look very good, but it gives you additional coverage on the bottom of the door that attaches to it. So speaking of doors, this is something I've been terribly guilty of in the past. I walk out the garage, I want to go outside, so I open the car door, the big overhead door. And your garage is kind of like a big vestibule. I mean, if you go out in the garage and it's 0 degrees and it's attached to the house, it's probably above freezing. So there's a lot of heat being stored in there, and it's kind of a buffer zone for your house. So I've taught myself to always use the other door, the people door, which lets very little cold air into the house. Plus, I save electricity by not using these big doors. Okay, so the fireplace, if you have a natural wood fireplace, an open damper is like just dumping out heat out of your house like crazy. So if you're not using the fireplace, always try to remember to close the damper. And in our case, you know, we always went out and got glass doors. And there you can get these systems I think you can get them to where they just fit in, where there's a heat recirculation system, there's fans on it, and they can actually blow a lot of heat into the room and help heat the house. But without those two things, you're probably losing a ton of heat up the chimney. So attic insulation. If you look up in the upper corner there, we're in zone 5, which is kind of a cold zone. And the recommendation is if you have no insulation that you get R49 to R60, which is quite a bit. If you already have some insulation, it recommends R38 to R49. So that's going to take you well above the beams. You know, you might have insulation in there and you can see the top of the beams. That's your ceiling. If you can see those, you don't have enough insulation. It's hard to put too much insulation in the attic. And it's fairly easy to do. You can have somebody come up and blow it in, or you can go get rolls of fiberglass and go up there and just roll it out. So that's a biggie right there. A lot of people don't think about it, but your attic access is, you know, a place where you can lose a lot of heat. For this house, we bought a specific unit that locks, and so it locks the thing in place, and it actually has an R42 rating. So it's about 12 inches deep up there into the attic with gaskets on the side, so it really seals it off. This young lady here is actually on one of the ladders that folds down from the attic, so you can get up to there. And this is kind of a homemade thing. It's just styrofoam made into a big thing that they can close up. And again, if you look at it, it's 8 to 12 inches thick by the time they put the lid on it. So these kind of things make a big difference in the amount of heat you lose, because heat always wants to go up. So another thing that I wanted to mention, and this again is for older homes, although I think we didn't see much until fairly recently, there's a thing called the bond. And this is the bond right here. The bond is what bonds the wood part of the house to the cement foundation. And that's why it's called the bond. It's this piece right here, and it's up in here. And if you look on real old homes, you'll see nothing here. If it's either a basement or a crawl space, obviously not a slab. Excuse me. But you might, in the medium range homes, you might see fiberglass stuff in here. That doesn't really do much. It's not very effective. And if you're really going to do a good job here, and there is a tremendous amount of heat, because you can see this is just, there's the outside, there's the inside of that. There's just a board there. You might have a little siding on it or something, but that's it. So here's a bond that has been foamed, okay, just so you can see. So we filled all of this up with foam, and actually we took the foam on down, in this case, down to a level that's the ground level. So everything above the foam line here is above ground, just for some extra insulation. So take a look at that in your house and see what you have. And if you don't have this, I don't think it's very much money to have somebody come in and foam that. So those are all the things that I came up with, that I've experienced myself, and other people told me about, that I've learned about. If you have any other things to talk about or to say, add to that, let us know. At the same time, I just wanted to quickly show you some things if you're going to build a new house. This is what's called superior walls. And superior walls come on a semi-truck in pieces. They don't cost any more than regular concrete basements. And you can see here, they're actually sliding a piece into place, and then they glue and bolt it. So you can see it's a foam and concrete sandwich. And with this house, when it was built, they backfill, and then of course that settles. So we literally had a moat around this house for a month, and there was not a drop of water that came in this basement. So it's pretty amazing. And when they make this basement, they go corner to corner on it and make it within a 1/4 inch square, which you can't do with a concrete basement. So pretty neat thing. We also use something called zip panels. And usually you just see this board on the outside of the house, and then they put a house wrap on it. This is a combination of a foam layer, which is right there, and then a surface layer on top of that. This is the board here. So now when you have a 2x4, on the inside it's got the drywall, on the outside it's got the siding of the house. Now you have a thermal break there with that little section of foam. So this is a great insulator. And they put these panels up. You don't need a house wrap. This is the house wrap. They tape them together, and that's all it takes. And then you foam the heck out of it. So all the walls were foamed. The ceiling of the attic was foamed. And this isn't done yet. So what they did was, it's called a flash and fill. The flash and fill, the flash is the foam that they spray in. And then the film is I forget the name of the paper material, but the lightweight stuff that you see in some insulation. And the foam here gives you the insulation. The other material gives you soundproofing. And between them, the idea is they fill up the whole cavity. So even if there's some break someplace, the air can't move up through that cavity. It can't get in the cavity at all. Those are some of the basics things. If you just do those things, it makes a huge difference in your house. And one of the other things we did, and just in case anybody's interested, is this is where the gutter comes down. All of the places where the gutter comes down, we pipe these all together into a 5,000-gallon underground tank. And one rain will fill that tank up, and it will last 3 months of irrigation for all the flowers with the drip irrigation system. So we don't use any well water. With all the stuff I just showed you, you might want to consider the use of an energy auditor. I don't have any particular people that I can recommend. Maybe somebody else here does. But they'll come in with this device here, the infrared device, and they can walk around your house and show you exactly how much is coming in and where it's coming in. I think it's a pretty good investment.
Actually, I have one of these for iPhone. Yeah, if anybody's interested, just let me know and they can borrow it.
We used to have a device that you could go out to a customer site with solar and you could see how much solar they were going to get and how much shading. It cost $15,000. Now it's an app on the iPhone. So we ended up with a house that my wife wanted, a house that looked like a regular house, even though it had technology in it. And that's what we tried to do. And you can do that. You don't have to have a house that looks kind of weird and strange. The only thing I wanted to add today is there's some really important legislation in the Michigan legislature. They're sort of sidetracked right now with the fact they have to come up with laws for COVID. But this is a package of bills. And the SB is Senate bill, HB is the House bill. Fair value pricing. Right now with DTE and soon to be consumers, they've come up with a new system called distributed generation, and you can't figure out how much savings you're going to get or how much you're going to get back from them. They've made it impossible. So that would be to remove that, to make it simple again once a month. The most important one is the RE cap, this renewable energy cap. So when the net metering law was done in Michigan a few years ago, they said, okay, the maximum renewable energy for any utility company only has to be 1%, and a quarter of that is combined power, heat and power. So really 0.75% could be solar. And they said, we'll never hit that. Well, guess what? We're coming close. And DTE is predicting 2023, but that's with a flat line solar market, which is not true. The solar is going gangbusters. So we're thinking it'll be about 2021, and consumers is going to hit it in this December. And after that, they can say, sorry, forget it, you can't hook up. Nope, you can't even hook up to our system. So it's really important that these bills get passed. And they are sitting there right now in the Senate. They're sitting in the Senate Energy Committee. But we really need to get the cap lifted. The other two would be nice, but the cap's got to happen. So I'm throwing that out. If you have a senator or a rep you know or can contact, please give them these numbers and tell them we need this. Or if this goes through, we're going to lose about 10,000 jobs. So that's what I have for today.
Well, thank you, Mark. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Maybe tell people about if they go up and add any insulation, make sure they don't block off any soffit vents, and make sure they have enough ventilation in the attic too to make it more energy efficient to add the extra insulation they add.
Yeah, good point. So if you saw the picture I had those pieces of thing up there. That's what those were for, is to make sure you get that ventilation, because if you don't, you're going to get moisture up in your roof.
On your doors, on your exterior doors, most of them have an adjustable threshold. And a lot of times when the installers put them in, they left that threshold low because the door closes much easier. If your door is closing too easy, your threshold may be low, and you can adjust it with there should be visible screws that you can adjust your threshold up for a tighter fit to the bottom of the door.
They are, yeah, they're all adjustable now. And yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
Question concerning the bond, the foaming the bond, how thick would you recommend that be?
In the walls, in the 2x6 wall, you usually go about half the thickness. So I would say 3 inches thick.
Okay, great.
Would be good enough.
And then we have a question wondering if anyone knows what the rebate is from DTE for putting new windows in your house.
I do not.
No, you're not.
I don't know if I showed it to you before when I did solar, but if you want to see something interesting, go out and look at something called Meridian at County Farm. It's Veridian, Veridian, a county farm. And it's a whole new community that's going to be built in Ann Arbor. That's all solar and energy storage, everything in the community.
Wow. When will that be? Is that just being built or?
Well, no, it's not being built yet. First construction will start in the next several months. We're still going back and forth with DTE because they don't allow this. So we're trying to call it a pilot operation to see how it works. So we'll see how that goes.
So do you know about the can lights? And there's some kind of a hood that can go over the top of can lights. You put that in before you put the insulation into your attic. I don't know when you're supposed to do that and when you're not.
Well, it used to be they didn't recommend it because light bulbs got it so hot in there it needed ventilation.
Right.
But I don't think that's an issue anymore with the LED bulbs.
Oh, so LEDs, you don't really need one of those caps?
Well, you can use the cap because the LED doesn't generate enough heat to start a fire or anything.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do it before just because the light bulb would create so much.
Oh, I see why.
You needed the venting out the top.
So if you're insulating your attic, you don't need to really look at, you don't really need a thermal imager like this thing. But if you, for an existing house, if you want to look at your walls to see if there's anything that wasn't insulated, you can look at it with a thermal imager, and then you can drill a hole and foam it. And there's certain types of foams, energy foam that really works well. You got to be careful around windows though, because the foam can't expand real largely, or it could damage the frame of the window because it would overexpand and compress into the window. But as long as you use the right foam, the low expansion stuff, and the energy foam itself has a really good R value. It's much better than fiberglass.
Well, yeah, it is. And if you look at fiberglass, you put the pads up there on the wall, but there's gaps. I mean, you can't seal it. There's gaps all the way around the edges of it. It's not tight against the wall on either side.
The only problem is you're going to have a hole in your wall that you have to fix with, putty and sand and then repaint. But I did a lot of our house.
All right, any other questions for Mark? All right, well, thank you very much for sharing that with us today. And if you have other questions, please go ahead and jump into chat, or at the end we can ask if anything else springs to mind. So we just want to take you through a few EcoHV updates. So first, some good news, which any environmental win is always a great one and something we want to celebrate. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with SOS Save Our Seas Act. It's actually 2.0. It is a federal act. It passed both through the House and Senate, and it's on its way to the president. There's positives. I'm not sure how much you know about this, but there's obviously positives and negatives. So the downside is that it does not address the behavior at the root of our plastic issue. And as we know, where we are right now, one single act isn't going to get us out of this mess, but it is a great step in the right direction, and it will help. There's kind of three areas that the act focuses on. So one is strengthening our domestic marine debris response. So this is also including the creation of a marine debris foundation. So they'll be prized for innovation, new research to really help tackle this issue and learn more about the problems that it's creating. The second area is that it enhances global engagement to combat marine debris. So not just on our national standpoint, but globally as well. And then importantly, improving domestic infrastructure. So to really help keep this plastic and garbage out of our marine areas. So for us, particularly the Great Lakes, but the ocean areas as well. So we had a group from our Plastic Pollution Solution Coalition that met a couple weeks ago with Representative Huizinga, who has about 100 miles of Lake Michigan coast and was very excited about this bill and really doing a lot to protect Great Lakes. So like I said, positive win, we will take it. The big one that we're keeping our eye on and we'll really revisit in 2021 in January is the Break Free from Plastic Act. And that's what really targets behavior and helping to limit plastic that's produced to even be put out there. All right, our Changing Climate Art Show. So this is something I know we've talked about last year when we had launched it. A little bit at our last meeting, that this is now out. And if you go to our website, EcoHV.org, you can click on the submission guidelines. So the exciting thing this year is we've expanded it to music. So last year it was 2 and 3D visual art. Now we're expanding it to the musical arts as well. So again, the goal of the show is anything that inspires people to act on climate change or helps communicate our climate crisis. And it's for kindergarten through adult. So a lot of great opportunity as we're coming into the cooler months and you're at home to channel your inner artist. January to February will be the submission timeframe where you can upload a photo of your art or the musical composition. March will be the selection period, and then April will be the gallery. We're hoping like last year that we'll be able to have a physical gallery as well as a virtual gallery at both Cub Art Gallery in Brighton and the Huron Valley Council for the Arts in Highland. So one of the areas that we wanted to reach out and see if there was any interest is we are looking for a website guru. So we have a company that has offered to help us create a new website and really kind of build it out, but we need somebody with some passion for that area to really help work with the team and lead this initiative. So if that is of interest, please let one of us know. And then I saw Miles had his that he has voted, and I'm sure many of you also have. But for those of you that have not voted, we wanted to just give a reminder to vote. I have also included at the bottom, Sierra Club does a lot of endorsement specific to environmental candidates. So if you'd like to learn more about those that are fighting for with an environmental positioning, if you go to sierraclub.org/Michigan, or if you see the little QR code on the right, if you hold your phone up to that right now, it'll pop up a window and it'll launch you to the voter center, which will allow you to check and make sure you're registered, find out where either you can vote or return a ballot if you have an absentee ballot. And then it'll also let you know the candidates that have been endorsed, both locally at the state level and federal. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff.
Oh, maybe Tiffany, could you talk about proposal 1?
Yes. So did you have specific question, or are you looking at?
They might not know about the fact that it looks in proposal 1, it makes it look like it's a good thing, you know, but they're actually taking money away from the parks.
Yes.
As opposed to.
That is correct. So what, and I'd be happy to, when we send out our recap from our meeting, is include a link directly to the Sierra Club statement on this, because I'm going to paraphrase, but I want to make sure you see the whole thing. But as I follow, there's two areas. So Sierra Club is one of the environmental organizations that, as you mentioned, is against Proposal 1. Unfortunately, the way the language reads on the ballot, it makes it sound like it's a great thing and putting more money into the parks, but it's kind of twofold. So the first is that it's money coming from dirty energy. So the question of, might there be more leases for oil extraction in order to get more money to put into this fund? But then secondly, is it caps to 25% the amount of the fund that can be used for land conservation. So 25% is obviously a very small amount. So nothing, it's not like the fund is going to go away if this if it does not pass. What it was doing is making some changes to the way it's funded and, as mentioned, how the money will be used after. So Sierra,
I think it was like as much as 75% since 1976 or something like that. That it was actually a lot more, and it was capping it to 25%.
Yes. Yep. So yes. So Sierra Club's position on this is to vote no. And again, I'm happy to share that full release with you. There's also a great article in, I believe it was the Detroit Free Press, and maybe Bridge covered something as well that had a lot of great information, but happy to share that. And thanks for bringing that up, Bob.
I wonder if there should be a lawsuit because of the wording for this is very confusing to voters, and it might pass because the wording didn't really explain what it was actually doing.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jeff, did you want to talk a little bit about your recycling yard sign project?
Yes, and on that, on the sarah.org for the voting, they explain that ballot initiative too in detail and why to vote no on it. So if you go on there to look at their endorsements for candidates, it'll also have that on there too. All right, now on recycling the signs, people seem to have some interest in it, but after thinking about this, any signs that are left out, I think it's 5 days after election, each township will pick those up and they take them back to their storage area. And I think if we call the township offices, we should be able to go to those offices and pick up leftover signs, because otherwise they're just going to throw them in the trash. But they do save them, hoping that politicians will come to the township offices and pick up the extra signs. Because right now, if they're illegally placed, the townships pick them up and take them back to their township offices. So that may be simpler than trying to pick them up at different politicians' campaign headquarters. So I'm thinking about maybe just contacting the township offices. Now, I don't know if anyone's interested in doing that, which would be much easier than contacting campaigns.
What about the campaigns that do pick them up? They need to know that
Well,
they can
a
receive
lot of
them.
them reuse them for their next elections.
Yeah, but I mean, what if they just toss them?
Well, if people want to contact them, but we talked about just making it easier on people if they just contact the township offices. And we'll pick them up from there for recycling. Well, that's what we're working on the signs.
And I'm going to talk about Monarch Jim. If anybody's interested in checking up on him, if you're at I think most people here were at the butterfly release. So Tiffany did send out an email with this, but if you're interested, you can go to the link above, www.monarchwatch.org// And it doesn't mean, if there's nothing on there, it doesn't mean that he's not okay or he didn't make it. It's just that if he has been seen, it'll be tracked down there, and maybe you can see what's happening with him. And then the next meeting, November 16th. So we still are going to do the environmental gift ideas that you can see there. But what we were also thinking was that we will have the chat box open. And if there's any gift ideas, any products besides the ones we have listed on our website that you've tried that you want to recommend, put them, share in the chat box, you know, so that people, it's a time when people really do buy this stuff and send to their loved ones. I know last year someone bought their grandkids or somebody, you know, who gives a crap toilet paper. I know I sent a couple of my nieces and nephews that are interested in this kind of stuff, the drops, you know, laundry subscription. So we'll have that open to have ideas, and then we will be doing the lotion. There's several things that we're going to be talking about that night, where we're going to do more what would be like a recipe card almost, where we'll kind of tell people, but we'll have made it. So we'll give, or not us, but whoever the presenter is, you know, give tips on the best way to do that.
I think we need some more manly products in there. Think of something.
Manly what? Laundry detergent? Is it manly?
Well, it is in our house, but.
I make the laundry
Yeah, he makes
detergent.
it.
And the beeswax? Oh, really? Everything is household,
Yeah.
seems to me, except the lotion.
But I guess another quick plug, if anyone does have other ideas that they would like to share, or feeling more of a masculine craft, let us know, and we'd be happy to work you into the lineup on the 16th. So.
Yeah, because right now we have a few, but since we're going with that recipe idea, we can put, you know, I think we have room for more stuff.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments?
Do you want to let people know, and on what we talked about, Holly's idea of starting, maybe doing something like a garage sale type of thing, where people have something instead of throwing it away, if anyone in the group could use it. If people are interested in us doing something like that, and maybe if we're going to be doing Zoom meetings, they could put something in the chat during the meeting that, hey, I have a hose like Holly did.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
They use it, and then maybe do an exchange that way with people who have items that they don't want to throw them away. They're still usable. Maybe somebody else in our group could use that item. And during like our next meeting next month, if you want to put that in the chat room that, hey, I have such and such item, anyone interested in it? And then you make contact with each other through that.
I thought we were going to do like a bulletin board thing.
But the website's not big enough right now.
Oh,
So maybe this would be a way to do it in the meantime.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
So keeping that in mind, everyone, for November meeting, if you have any of those items.
Yeah, like Jeff was saying, what mine was I had super long hose, but didn't really attach that great anymore at the source, you know? And so plus I was sick of looking at it. But then a friend did take it. It's great as like an extra hose to get to that way back garden.
Yeah.
You know? So then you will still use it once in a while, you know? So then I didn't, because it was a garbage thing. Like it wasn't recyclable. So that was great. I didn't have to throw it out.
Yeah, and then if you have other ideas for how to kind of share this beyond that, let us know. But otherwise, I think starting as Zoom is a great idea, that we can open that up in chat and see if there's anything. And then it looks like Michelle mentioned they used to have that kind of swap event on FreeCycle. And I know I think Lauren had mentioned FreeCycle before. So I'm not sure if others have shared or used that, or know is that still active, but that'd be another one we could definitely look into.
Is that a website or a Facebook? Like, I don't know what FreeCycle is. Is that a website?
Freecycle.org. And unfortunately, the HV FreeCycle is, it's still there, but pretty dead. Yeah, I've put things up there and got no interest lately.
Maybe we can even just promote that more instead of our thing. Because see, I didn't know it was like an existing thing.
Yep, I think that sounds like a great start for us to help kind of rejuvenate that and build awareness, and then hopefully we can bring it back to life around this area. All right, anything else that anyone has to share? Any other questions that came to mind for Mark?
So anybody who's interested in a borrowing the thermal imager that I have, I put my email address out here on the chat room, rslippert@yahoo.com. Just give me a holler and come and pick it up. It's very simple to add an app. And
How much did that cost?
it's not very expensive. I think it was like $200 or something like that. It's a pretty nice, it's a Seek. It's called Seek. And
You have to have you probably have to have a newer iPhone, or as long as it will take the app.
no, it's an iPhone with the
Lightning port.
yeah, the prong that goes in the bottom. It's pretty easy to use. The app is pretty easy to load. It won't work with what's the other?
Android.
Android, yeah. You'd have to get a Seek for Android. And I think, I'm not sure if it's more expensive or not. But yeah, if you anybody wants, yeah, cool. You just walk around the house and find all kinds of spots, that you could fix if you only knew.
Right.
But you have to have a thermal imager to know, so.
So if you want to, in the same kind of vein, if you want to see what kind of shading you have, if you're interested in solar maybe, but you don't know how much sun you've got, there's an app called Lumos, Lumos. You can pick the date of the year and then hold it up in the air and it will show you where the sun's going to be in the sky for that day. So it's kind of fun to use. It's no cost.
Well, thank you very much, Bob, for that offer. That's very kind of you. And if no one has anything else, then we look forward to seeing you on the 16th of November.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
And-
everybody.
Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.